Christian Burgess, the centre-half for Union Saint-Gilloise, once of Portsmouth, represented Portsmouth with great distinction. So a lovely story, Dean Ashton, for him alone, isn't it? We don't have enough stories of English footballers thinking, no, I need to, broaden my horizons, try something brand new. And, took the plunge, went to Saint-Gilloise, and he's been part of this extraordinary journey they've been on since he came in and Tony Bloom took control of the club.
Oh, he has. It is incredible what he's now doing, leading his team out in the Champions League. Like you said, taking that risk, going somewhere different, and making his way. Interesting, isn't it, that obviously Tony Bloom is part of the ownership, as well as Brighton, where Dan Burn was very similar. They picked him up and made him almost into, he's done it himself, but made him into this Champions League player. So I'm sure there'll be a little nod between the two, Burn and Burgess, this evening.
And we shouldn't forget Ross Sykes, who's on the bench as well for Saint-Gilloise, who's a former Accrington Stanley centre-half, but a boyhood Newcastle fan who was pictured going absolutely nuts when the draw was made, and he knew that Newcastle were coming to play his team in his hometown of Brussels. South and west of Brussels Central is the Anderlecht Lotto Park Stadium, and the aforementioned Christian Burgess just doing the pennant swap on the halfway line with Bruno Guimaraes, and Urs Schneider, our Swiss referee, sorting out the coin toss. So we've got 3 Champions League games for you tonight across the Talksport network. At 8 o'clock, you've got a choice of listening between Arsenal Olympiacos on Talksport from the Emirates, or AS Monaco against Manchester City here on Talksport 2. And at half-time, we'll have a chat with Adam Bridge, our commentator for that game at the Stade Louis II. And we'll also check in with a couple of our EFL Championship reporters, because there are some Championship games tonight after the slew of Championship games last night. And what I've seen already, I've seen about 3 different potential ways that Union Saint-Gilloise could line up here. 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, and I've just seen the 3-4-1-2 as well, Dean Ashton. So I think you and me have got our work cut out in these first couple of minutes, getting a bead on exactly what they're using here, how they're using their players.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a few that can switch around. Niang can play as a wing back.
Yes.
Kalalili can also do the same and get forwards, and El Hadj can move into a 10 position. So they've got players that are adaptable, but I would go with, stick my neck out and say they're going to match Newcastle up 4-3-3 and see who can win their battles individually.
Now, the manager of Union Saint-Gilloise is Sebastian Pocognoli, who once played for West Bromwich Albion and Brighton and Albion, finished his career at Saint-Gilloise as a player before becoming coach. And we are underway on Talksport 2. Newcastle wearing the black and white striped shirts, but white shorts and socks this evening, taking on Saint-Gilloise, who are wearing their traditional yellow and blue, a little bit Oxford United-esque, I would say, Saint-Gilloise. Ball's played down the Newcastle right for Alanga, tucks it in field for Guimaraes, up to Voltemada with his back to goal at the edge of the area, but he's dispossessed, and away it's brought by Anwar El Hadj, who just lofts it downfield, asking Kevin Rodriguez to give chase, but he's beaten to the ball by Sven Botman. He's just caught off the ball, but the referee says play on, because Newcastle have kept possession and Malik Thiaw has it. 0-0.
Yeah, and I've just wound my neck right in. It is a back 5, especially out of possession. That course can change once they get the ball, but it very much looks like a back 3 with the wing backs, 2 holding midfielders, and then El Hadj behind the 2 front players for Union SG.
Oh, Joe Linton's just clattered into El Khalili on the Saint-Gilloise right. So a free kick to the Belgian champions. Yeah, just caught the right calf of Kalaili on the right-hand side. So this is level with the 18-yard line pretty much, Dean, and a good early test of Newcastle's defensive capabilities here.
It is, but, I mean, they've got the height. Absolute giant of a team, Newcastle now.
Well, El Hadj is going to take the free kick, a right-footed delivery into the box from the right-hand side, so swinging it away from Pope, who made some extraordinary saves on Sunday against Arsenal. It's actually played short, out to the edge of the area. Van der Perre gives it back to El Hadj. He thinks about tossing it back into the box. He does now. Left-footed to the far post. Up go the heads. It actually dropped onto the head of the left-back, Layson, but Newcastle managed to get it half clear. Back it goes, and Promise David, the Canadian striker, trying to make a nuisance of himself in the box, and Trippier ends up clearing it out of play for a throw and looks across at his defenders with a bit of a glare, does Kieran Trippier. Couple gone, 0-0.
Yeah, it was well done by Union SG in terms of just keeping that alive and really putting the pressure on as soon as that ball was headed out to make sure they won that second ball and keep that pressure. Just fed that back in. It was Botman and then eventually Trippier that got it away. But I think the setup, certainly from the home team, gives that respect to Newcastle for sure.
That's Burgess who sent the ball forward, and then they tried to get one of the two front men through, Kevin Rodriguez, but it was just too far ahead of him. But Rodriguez and Promise David, the Ecuadorian and the Canadian, will be lively for Thiaw and Botman to deal with. Ball's out of play for a throw to Newcastle on the left-hand side, inside their own half. 3 minutes gone on Talksport 2. Union SG 0, Newcastle United 0. 3 more English sides in action in the Champions League tonight after mixed fortunes for the 3 that played yesterday. Ball's in the middle of midfield and worked back to the edge of the penalty area, driven forward by Layson, but straight into Newcastle's path, and it's worked out to Alanga on the right wing. Thinks about an early cross, but plays it infield to Guimaraes. Then it'll drop for Sandro Tonali, just outside the area. Laid back to Alanga at the edge of the box. He tried to drive and it was blocked by Van der Perre. And in the end, Union SG smuggle it clear down the left-hand side, but claims that Rodriguez was being held by Thiaw, but the referee saw nothing wrong with that, and we play on at 0-0.
Oh, but didn't they work that puzzle out beautifully, Newcastle, there? Just the interchanging of positions and the timing of the runs as he went in towards Tonali, back to Guimaraes, then fed towards Anthony Alanga, who had just made a lovely little run on the inside and really well blocked his strike. Voltemada loses it again. He's made a sloppy start. It's the first 3 things he's done, Voltemada, that have all been poor.
Well, if your lad's watching this and they're still calling him Volta Messi, then he won't be enjoying that particular opening for Newcastle's new striker. Now, Promise David actually forces Sven Botman to concede a corner. He was trying to hook the ball over his head and just hit it against himself. Botman goes out of play for a first corner of the game to the Belgian champions, 0-0.
Yeah, he's complaining to the referee because he feels as if he had a shove. Well, yes, you did. He's not going to make it easy for you. It was just a poor clearance then. He just cleared it into his own forehead and out for a corner. But that's, I think, what they want. They want to try and isolate Botman and Thiaw against Rodriguez and David and really test them in behind.
Let's see what El Hadj can conjure up from this right wing corner for the Belgians. Up it goes into the area. Burgess was there and headed over the top by Rodriguez at the far post. There were plenty in there in the yellow and blue shirts, and Rodriguez thumps the turf in frustration. He feels he should have done better with that header. Pope had it covered. Goal kick Newcastle, 0-0.
Yeah, Layson it was, who just got his head on it first. And then Trippier, I think, just does enough to put Rodriguez off. He almost jumps into him on the 6-yard line just to make sure that he was worried about the contact, and then just took his eye off it slightly, couldn't head it downwards.
Free header on halfway for Van der Perre, flicked on by Rodriguez. David trying to make a nuisance of himself against Botman, who just heads the ball up in the air. But well done, Bruno Guimaraes very calmly heads the ball back with a looping header to his keeper, Nick Pope. So 6 minutes gone in Brussels. It is Union SG 0, Newcastle 0. This stadium holds about 21,000. It's not quite full. Union SG's home stadium only holds about, I would say, 9,000 spectators. Not compatible with Champions League. That's why they moved their home games here for their first ever Champions League campaign. Niang very strongly in on Elanga. The ball went out of play for a throw. No free kick, says the referee. So Trippier preparing to take this throw. Midway point at the Union SG half. Down the Newcastle right. Voltemada holding at the edge of the area. Elanga is there short. Receives the throw now. Flicks it infield neatly to Tonali. Across to Joe Linton. Tried to thread it through the eye of a needle to Voltemada, but Burgess intercepted for Union SG. Tonali picks it up now, inside right channel, into Bruno Guimaraes. Tries to play a 1-2 with Joelinton, then tried to improvise a back flick to get Voltemada in. And a punch from the goalkeeper, Sherpen, when he could have caught it. on his 6-yard line, and Newcastle have it back. Here is Gordon playing it across to Trippier, inside right position, swirls across it, too deep for even the giant Voltemada, but Gordon will go and retrieve on the far right hand side, and he will win a throw on that right hand side of Kalaili. It is Union SG 0, Newcastle 0.
It is incredibly tight, of course, in front of that back three and two midfielders in front of them, but they worked it again really well, Newcastle, into that position to take a strike, blocked again, decent cross in, build a bit of momentum.
Get a long throw in as well. That's what Dan Burn's about to do for Newcastle. Launches it from the left-hand side into the near post. Headed away by McAllister. And then Rodriguez drifts out towards the right-hand side in his own defensive third and whacks the ball against Dan Burn and wins a throw for the Belgians. 8 minutes gone. On Talksport 2. Union SG 0. Newcastle 0. They've won 5 of their last 7 European matches, have the Belgians. Remember, they kicked off in the Champions League with a very impressive 3-1 win at PSV Eindhoven, and they're unbeaten in 7 at home in the group stage of UEFA competitions, though in the last 2 seasons that's been in the Europa League, not the Champions League. But it all counts to that European experience. McAllister throws it in, flicked on by Rodriguez, but it won't reach David on halfway. Newcastle have it back. Burn at left back tonight in a traditional 4-3-3 for Newcastle. They've just won a free kick there as Gordon was clipped by Van der Perre just inside the Union SG half. Gordon now wearing that black headband that he wears now. His hair's grown the curtains. Very much Ian Walker-esque, I would say, that hairstyle of Anthony Gordon. Proper throwback.
One for the teenagers.
Yeah, most definitely. Your lad wouldn't recognise that name.
No, he wouldn't. Again, they're sat in a really good shape, Union SG, and as soon as that ball goes in towards the midfield area, they have been fantastic. The intensity to not allow any Newcastle player so far to get the ball and turn. They've had to play 1 and 2 touch, and if it's not perfect, they're able to win the ball back and then try and get it towards their 2 forward players.
That's the thoughts of former England, West Ham and Norwich striker Dean Ashton, alongside me, Ian Danter, here on Talksport 2, where we've now played nearly 10 minutes in Brussels. 0-0 the score. Newcastle with the ball inside their own half, and it's with Dan Burn, the left back. Guides the ball backwards a square to Botman. Botman plays the ball into the feet of Bruno Guimaraes, who turns and fires the ball up to Voltemada inside his own half. Plays a little 1-2 with Gordon, drifts out to the left-hand side. Voltemada still in his own half, and then is forced to give it back to Burn. What I saw last night, Dean Ashton, from Galatasaray was actually quite similar. The intensity, the desire to hunt in packs, to not let Newcastle settle on the ball, was very impressive, and it seems like the Belgians are doing just that tonight with the Magpies.
Again, they've just happened again, and they've won the ball back. It's that timing, isn't it? It's not 1s and 2s going, it's waiting for the ball to go in a certain area, and then as a pack you can go and try and win that ball back and make it difficult, and they've done a pretty good job so far against Newcastle.
There is one other Champions League game that's underway at this time, Karabakh against FC Copenhagen, and Arsenal and Manchester City both play at 8. We've got both those games live for you tonight across the Talksport network, and then you can react to all the action on the Sports Bar with Jamie and Jason on Talksport from 10 o'clock tonight. What a heavy challenge from Burgess on Voltemada there, gives Newcastle a free kick, the midway point of the Belgian half of the field. Burgess did try to play the ball, not the man, but caught Voltemada first. Free kick.
He just tried to wrap his foot around, didn't he, to get the touch. Voltemada, with his control with the outside of his right foot, was able just to swivel away and take the challenge.
So Tonali will have the free kick for Newcastle. It's out to the left-hand side, not quite at the midway point of the Union half, but the Belgian defence are holding their line at the edge of the 18-yard box. Number of Newcastle players looking to make that run now. It's whipped by Tonali, and it's headed behind for a corner kick. It was I think Layson, the left-sided centre-half, that got the final touch. So Tonali coming across to take this corner for Newcastle at 0-0.
Terrific delivery, though. Really, I know it was deep, but really whipped in into that area to make it difficult for any defender.
And Tonali now spotting the ball down in the corner where the Newcastle travelling contingent are making. They're the ones you can hear behind our commentary, the Newcastle fans, in fairness to them. Plenty of noise from the Toon army that have travelled. Here comes the corner from Tonali into the near post, cleared out as far as Elanga. Still got Tonali with him out on the right hand side for Newcastle. Elanga receives it from Tonali, getting close to the corner flag, gives it back to Tonali, swirling cross, and the goalkeeper Sherburn again elects to punch clear. It came for Joelinton, who tried to improvise a shot on the half volley outside the area but got it all wrong, and it's a goal kick to Union SG, 0-0.
Well, I thought this was positive goalkeeping from Sherburn to come, especially when Newcastle have got that height to come and punch. It's just Joelinton's first touch was so good on the edge of the area. He just thought, I'll swivel and volley this towards goal, but the half volley just poorly timed and over the top.
Works infield for Newcastle, looking for Voltemada, but Layson just drives it downfield. You're listening to Union Saint-Gilloise versus Newcastle in the Champions League, live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever it is, they're here for it. Dan Burn, Newcastle's left back, out to the left-hand side for Anthony Gordon, looking to get past El Khaili. Did so, but across came McAllister with a no-nonsense clearance out of play for a Newcastle throw. Eddie Howe looking on with Newcastle only one win in their last 11 away European games, but only on the other side of the cone, only 4 defeats in 17 trips away. So their away form isn't shambolic, but it does need to improve. Another long throw coming in from Dan Burn from the left-hand side. Oh, bounced on the 6-yard line, and Layson saw it late and can only turn it behind for another corner kick to Newcastle. 0-0 on 14 minutes.
Well, it's the trend, it's back, and it's always been a threat. I don't know why it went away. If you've got somebody that can throw it in like that, with the trajectory that it was there from Dan Burn, and everybody missed it, and the defender didn't know where that was going to go. Went behind for a corner in the end.
To be taken on the left-hand side for Newcastle, so it will be a right-footed in-swinger. Burn and Voltemada very close to the goalkeeper Sherburn. Tonali again to take it. Gordon standing on the 18-yard line, but it's whipped in by Tonali. Voltemada, oh, he was at the near post and couldn't get the touch, but it came out off Burgess for a corner kick, and Voltemada will be kicking himself. He didn't get proper contact on that header.
I just feel as if he must have got a shout from Thiaw, who was behind him and probably had a better angle towards the header, and I think they got in the way of each other, shoulder to shoulder, Thiaw and Voltemada, and neither of them got the contact.
Tonali to try again with another corner, into the near post again, headed strongly clear, this time at the back by El Khaili, and out of play it goes for a throw given to Newcastle. The home fans thought that was theirs, but Newcastle have worked it back into their own half for the two centre-halves, Botman and Thiaw. He floats it across to Burn inside his own half. We played a quarter of an hour on Talksport 2. USG 0, Newcastle 0. Voltemada caught by Burgess again, but the referee waves play on. No, he's actually brought it back because Trippier said, are you playing an advantage or not? And in the end, the referee said free kick. Now Elanga, is he going to have a run against Niang down the right-hand side? He is. Whips in a lovely cross. It's cleared away. Tonali at the edge of the area, drives it in, and via a deflection, Newcastle take the lead. Sandro Tonali chanced his arm from the edge of the area. A deflection wrong foot of the goalkeeper after Elanga's cross had caused problems in the Union SG back line, and Newcastle have the lead just after the quarter-hour mark. Union SG 0, Newcastle United 1.
Oh, what a wonderful cross this is from Elanga. Really whipped in, so difficult for defenders. Voltemada, though, he's not claiming it enough. It's his goal. It's Tonali that comes in, volleys it towards goal, but it just inadvertently hits Voltemada. He just sticks out a foot and it just flicks off him. I think it might then hit off the defender as well, McAllister. But I'm sure he'll try and claim something. But Tonali's the one with the volley, and absolutely nothing Sherpant could do with that deflection. It's just whether it hits Voltemada or McAllister to wrong foot the goalkeeper.
Well, if it has hit Voltemada, there's no way he's letting Tonali claim that. He wants the goal tally to increase for him as much as it possibly can. But it's all semantics. It's 1-0 to Newcastle United.
Well, he needs to learn how to act, because he didn't act like it had hit him enough. Whether it did or not, we'll wait to see.
Well, now he's released Anthony Gordon as Newcastle come forward again. Steps inside Van der Perre. Now Voltemada has it 30 yards out. Flicks it to his right for Tonali. He might have another go for goal here, the Italian, but no, he plays it to his immediate right for Bruno Guimaraes. Now Trippier tries to slip in Elanga down the right-hand side, but that's hit too long and too straight for even Elanga to catch, and it goes behind for a Union SG goal kick. So the Toonami are in front inside 20 minutes on Talksport 2. Just the tonic for Eddie Howe after the massive disappointment of that high-profile fixture against Barcelona did not go Newcastle's way. So 1-0 the score. And the ball's on halfway, and Layson, the left-back, sticks out a long telescopic leg to keep it away from Elanga, but it goes out of play for a throw to Newcastle.
And that's exactly what they would have wanted as well, with a team that's going to sit there and defend and just have their two forwards looking for the counter-attack. To get that extra bit of momentum is perfect.
Nearly 19 minutes gone as listeners from Talksport join us. Newcastle are in front in Brussels against Union SG. Nick Voltemada got the final touch on a drive from outside the area by Sandro Tonali after a wicked cross from Anthony Elanga down the Newcastle right. Caused consternation in the Union SG defence. Tonali drove it goalwards, and Voltemada got a flick on it and diverted it past the keeper, who was wrong-footed. But Dean Ashton, he didn't make enough of the claim for the goal, did he?
He didn't, so we'll see if he really does get it, or whether Tonali gets it and it was McAllister, the defender, that it ricocheted off. But it was the ball in from Elanga. It was just absolutely brilliant. Really whipped it in with pace, caused the problems. Tonali following as he should do with the volley. And Newcastle have deserved it. They've dominated possession after that first little bit of life from Union SG.
Yeah, Union SG just quickly were sort of ratting around early on and preventing Newcastle getting a string of passes together, but they're just opening up now a little bit, Newcastle, as Voltemada turns and fires it down the right-hand side for Anthony Elanga, who's got the run on Layson for the moment. Whips another cross in at the near post, and it's turned over by Anthony Gordon at that near post.
Brilliant break, Voltemada with the ball out towards Elanga, and this is what you need, just one touch and whipped in, and Anthony Gordon, making his run off the big centre forward, dives towards that near post, and he just doesn't quite get the connection that he wants.
Commentary continues of this Champions League encounter on Talksport 2, where the scoreline is on 20 minutes. Union SG 0, Newcastle United 1. And the ball's drilled forward, looking for Promise David to make a run through the centre for the Belgians. But again, Newcastle won it back. They're warming to their task here on the Premier League side. Trippier finds Tonali, but he's dispossessed on halfway. And then down goes Niang, somewhat theatrically. Has won a free kick, but no more than that for Union SG, just over halfway. Just went over Kieran Trippier and threw himself down, as players are wont to do nowadays, to accentuate the fall. Here he is again, Niang, picking it up left-hand side and driving infield. Tries to go in between Tonali and Guimaraes. Wanted a foul, and the referee saw nothing wrong with that. And forward comes Anthony Gordon, but just can't take the ball with him. And instead, it's back with the hosts, wearing their yellow and blue first choice colours, Union SG. Kaleli plays it 1-2 down the right-hand side. The right wing back finds McAllister, and now Burgess just flicks the ball into the centre circle for Zorgan. Ball down the middle, finds Niang left-hand side. The cross is diverted behind off Trippier for a corner. He's looking around him. It is other defenders. Again, Kieran Trippier saying, where's the cover? There is a corner for the Belgian champions here, 1-0 Newcastle.
But that is where they should be targeting, down the sides of the centre-back and full-backs of Newcastle United. Trippier and Byrne, neither are the quickest, and they should look to try and expose that area. It was El Hadj that made the run from the 10 position for Union SG to cause those issues, but it was a great ball too.
Adam Zorgan to take the corner kick, right-footed for Union SG. Good delivery to the far post, and it's flicked away by Sandro Tonali for another corner on the far side. Tonali was claiming he didn't get a touch, but it just skimmed off his forehead and went behind. So another corner on the right-hand side now for Union SG.
And again, if you get the delivery right, it does cause problems. It means Pope can't come and punch.
So El Hadj will have the right-footed out-swinging corner this time for Union SG. It's going to land around the penalty spot. McAllister can't climb. Volleyed goals by Layson. Newcastle get it half clear. Driven back in by Zorgan, but straight at Nick Pope. Half a yard either side of the Newcastle keeper. That would have been 1-1.
Yeah, they didn't get the deflection, did they, that Newcastle got as they're now on the break.
Here comes Guimaraes trying to release Elanga down the right-hand side. Voltemada calling for the cross. Elanga's cross goes out on the full. Just couldn't wrap his foot round it enough, and it's a goal kick to Union SG. 1-0 Newcastle.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? That needs to be tidied up from Elanga. That cross for the goal was stunning. That wasn't at all. Voltemada's had a bit of a go at him, as he should do, because it was a great opportunity just to stand one up for the big German, but at the other end, they just didn't get the deflection they needed. Zorgan, you're right, with a great strike, and if it takes a bit more of deflection, Nick Pope's not saving it.
Because he was unsighted, wasn't he, by the forest of Newcastle players in front of him. 1-0 to Newcastle. This game being brought to you in partnership with TNT Sports, the home of European football. And plenty more live football to come, not just tonight on Talksport and Talksport 2, but right the way through until the weekend. We've got Europa League football tomorrow night and Conference League. We've got Dinamo Kiev against Crystal Palace at 5:45 here on Talksport 2, as here come Kevin Rodriguez for Union Saint-Gilloise, and he wins a corner off Botman, twisting and turning down the right-hand side of the area and forcing Botman to put it behind. 1-0 Newcastle.
Yeah, and that's what they need to do, is get the centre-backs into those positions, use the pace and trickery of Rodriguez and David and El Hadj, and in the end just winning another corner.
To be taken by El Hadj from the right-hand side, so an outswinger from him. And it comes to the near post, flicked away by Elanga, comes out to Zorgan again at the edge of the area, left-footed drive this time, and Pope turning behind for another corner. Not quite the venom on the previous strike, but Pope had to make the save.
No, it was a more difficult skill because it was higher, but he got over it. Zorgan hit it into the ground with his left foot, shin more like, but still, because it was late being seen by Pope, he did well to get down.
Another El Hadj corner onto the 6-yard line. McAllister rises and can't get over the top of the head. He's not the tallest of centre-halves, McAllister, and he just couldn't get over the top of it. Seeing a replay of Zorgan's latest strike, it might have been sneaking in at the far post. Pope couldn't be sure and had to make the save. And it stays 1-0 to Newcastle, but the Belgian champions just getting up ahead of steam here, Dean Ashton.
They are, and you would expect that Newcastle will have to withstand a bit of pressure. And that's then when you need to call upon your goalkeeper. Joe Linton took a little flick at it, which is why Pope had to really wait till the very end to make the save.
Here's Rodriguez, the Ecuadorian, for the Belgian champions. Zorgan works it out to Kalaili on the right-hand side. Now it's back with McAllister, who, unlike his brother, hasn't won any caps for Argentina. Kevin McAllister. He's on the shorter side of centre-halves, but I shouldn't really have a go. Whenever I think of short centre-halves, my mind is immediately drawn to somebody like Carlos Puyol, who was not the tallest, but what a mammoth centre-half he was for Barcelona in Spain.
Yeah, something tells me that McAllister's got a bit of aggression about him.
Yes, no question about that. Now here is Zorgan in the centre circle for Union SG, faced up by Guimaraes, just chips it forward. It won't quite get through to Kalaili, who was making a run down the right-hand side. Newcastle try and bring it clear, but the pattern's being re-established here, Dean Ashton, where Union SG is starting to win those first and second balls and started to hunt in packs again to win possession back.
Yeah, the goal seemed to have affected them slightly, didn't it, for a couple of minutes, but been boosted by a couple of set plays and a couple of opportunities and got that energy back again.
27 minutes gone on Talksport 2. Newcastle lead through Nick Voltemada's goal after a Tonali shot from the edge of the area was diverted in by Nick Voltemada. Didn't seem like he was claiming it, but it's his third goal already in 6 appearances for the 23-year-old who cost 69 million quid from Stuttgart. Apparently he was idiotic to sign him for that amount of money if you're one of the ex-Bayern Munich players who has a voice on the board. Just because they couldn't get him, I guess. Elanga, right-hand side for Newcastle. Tricks the ball in field for Tonali. Space for Trippier on the right. Can he work the cross into the box? He can. Jolinton with a header, and it's just wide of the post. Really well found by Trippier's lob cross on the right-hand side, and Jolinton was brave 8 yards out, but just couldn't divert the header on target. It's a goal kick in the end, 1-0 Newcastle.
Well, that's where you want Kieran Trippier, isn't it? In a position to play a cross like that, even on the volley, he really put it in with pace for someone to go and attack. And if you've got Voltemada in there, you need others going in, because naturally the defenders will look for Voltemada to make sure he hasn't got the space and can get a run. Jolinton just ghosts in, and really powerful header. He is probably about half a foot wide, the way he just directed it back to where it came from, but took a hell of a whack right at the end, as you said, with the brave header.
Yeah, he's just lying flat on his back inside the Union SG penalty area. Physios are out there just checking to make sure that there's nothing untoward. Just seeing a replay of it's definitely Voltemada's touch that wrong foots Sherpen in goal. That's the goal that's given Newcastle the lead. I was reminding you about what Europa League and Conference League football we've got for you tomorrow night on the Talksport network. Dynamo Kiev against Crystal Palace here on Talksport 2 at 5:45 with Kevin Hatchard and former Palace midfielder Darren Ambrose, and then a choice of listing from 8 o'clock on Talksport in Rotterdam. It's Feyenoord against Aston Villa in the Europa League. Alex Crook and Leanne Sanderson, your team, covering that one. And here on Talksport 2, Nottingham Forest have the European nights back at the City Ground. They're taking on Midtjylland in the Europa League, and Joe Shannon and former Wolves goalkeeper Matt Murray will be your commentary team there. And then we've got a choice of listing on Friday night in Premier League and Championship. Bournemouth Fulham on Talksport at 8. At the same time, the Hollywood Derby, Wrexham against Birmingham from the racecourse ground in the Championship. And that's before we've even got to game day. Kieran Trippier heads the ball clear as we're back underway. Jolinton's back out there as well for Newcastle, thankfully. None the worse for wear after that brave header. Saw him clattered into by a couple of Union SG defenders. We played half an hour on Talksport 2 at the Anderlecht Stadium, just south and west of Brussels. Here come Union SG with El Hadj, left-hand side, whips a right-footed ball to the far corner of the area. Kalaili brings it down. He's got Rodriguez and David wanting it pulled back to him. Sorgan wins a strong ball on the right-hand side. It's played back into the box by Kalaili, but he got it all wrong. I don't know who he was aiming for, but he couldn't find a Newcastle player. They've given it up here, Newcastle. El Hadj inside the D, gets a right-footed shot away, but it's deflected almost as soon as he hit it, making the save much easier for Nick Pope. 1-0 Newcastle.
Very untidy, though. So untidy for Union SG and for Newcastle, then trying to play out and giving the ball back to them, but never really under control by either team.
Well, Newcastle are dominating the possession stats. They've had 2/3 of possession in this opening 31 minutes or so, and they have the lead. And they're in possession right now with Gordon, just inside the Belgian half of the field. Goes back to halfway. Sandro Tonali just juggling with the ball to keep it away from the two strikers for Union SG. Then he spots Trippier in a bit of space, just over halfway. Trippier immediately fires into the path of Elanga down the right-hand side, skips past Niang, but he can't keep the ball in play. And it's a throw-in to Union SG in their left-back position.
They are getting joy, aren't they, down the right-hand side. Niang, I don't think, naturally looks like a defender that senses danger, keeps drifting away from Layson, who doesn't want to come out and help him. And then Trippier and Elanga are getting 2v1 against Niang and getting a bit of joy. That was just, again, a slightly poor touch from Elanga.
Throw into Union SG on their left-hand side, right next to where their manager Pogognoli is stood at the edge of his technical area, looking very smart. Suit against tracksuit in terms of managers today. Eddie Howe much more casual, and his opposite number. Here's Rodriguez guiding it down to Kalaili. Now Christian Burgess fires it up to halfway. Al Hadj just turns it round the corner first time, looking for the run of Rodriguez, but Newcastle have it back, and now Elanga can have another run down the Newcastle right, up against Layson. Tries to go beyond him, gets to the dead ball line, pulls it back, but can't find Voltemade. Burgess with a comfortable clearance for the Belgians, and it's out for a Newcastle throw. 1-0 to the Toonami on Talksport 2.
Yeah, I can hear the Newcastle bench as soon as that ball goes out to Elanga, for him to just go on, just get at the fullback, use that pace, use that dribbling ability, get beyond Layson, as he did, and got a dribbly cross in. It wasn't much to go for, took a whack at the same time, but they know. I think that was Tyndall that was down there shouting at Elanga to get out the fullback.
It's really strange when you hear Jason Tyndall giving it both barrels, because I've done commentary games with him for Talksport 2, and he's very reserved. When he's normal speaking voice, he's quiet as a mouse. Get him stood behind Eddie Howe, and he's the attack dog, isn't he? Got himself booked on Sunday as well, didn't he? Against Arsenal for a bit too much back chat to the fourth official. Now here's Elanga again, down the Newcastle right, up against Niang this time. Niang took the ball off him. Actually, that's good defending from Niang, although Elanga felt he was fouled. Nothing doing, said the Swiss referee, but Newcastle in possession back on the halfway line. Trippier plays the ball infield over the head of Elanga, who just couldn't judge the flight of the ball the way he would have wanted, and Zorgan tucks it infield for Union SG to find Van der Perre. Back it goes to Kevin McAllister, across to Burgess, who's got Voltemade closing him down, but Union SG just calmly get little triangular passing going to buy themselves some space.
But again, on that right-hand side, Elanga's got to make the right decision. If he's going to go past the defender, do it. If not, then fake to do that, but then just lay it back. Trippier's free. He's then got the time to cross that ball in. Instead, he did neither and lost the ball. And it's those little moments and decision-making at this sort of level that will make the difference.
Kalaili actually won a header against Dan Burn on halfway there. There's a collector's item for you. And then he was caught on halfway, and there's going to be a yellow card here for Joe Linton. He said, that's just one foul, referee. But that one foul is enough to give him a yellow card from the Swiss ref, and Kalaili is writhing around in agony. Was that a yellow card offence for you, Dean Ashton?
I think he's a bit unlucky. I think the fact that he's high and it does catch Kalaili on the shin, but they're both feet are high between both players. But ultimately, I think if you get caught now with your stud slightly high, you're going to get a yellow card. But he should be turning around to Dan Burn and saying, hang on a minute, how's he had a go at you in the air?
I've not seen that happen very often. Normally when you get players of 6'7", they jump about 5'8", but I think Dan Burn always manages to make that extra height work for him in aerial challenges. Union SG get played back underway with a free kick. Niang trying to work the ball in field. Newcastle got it half clear, goes out for a throw to the Belgians. Less than 10 minutes to half time. On Talksport 2, you're listening to Union Saint-Gilloise 0, Newcastle 1 in the Champions League. Live on Talksport with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Here for it. Book now at enterprise.co.uk. Here's Newcastle on halfway. Lovely touch from Gordon just to keep the ball away from a couple of Union SG shirts. Great strength from Voltemade as well. Plays in Elanga down the right-hand side. Two to aim up with a cross. One of them's Gordon, but Burgess does enough defending the ball. And Sherpen plunges on top of it, the goalkeeper. Wonderful, wonderful hold-up play from Voltemade and a great pass to release Elanga. And the cross could easily have brought Newcastle a second.
It was brilliant, wasn't it, from Newcastle. Voltemade with the hold-up play, ball to Elanga. This time, first time really whipped it into Gordon, but Burgess, honestly, what a fantastic defensive challenge this was. Stretching back towards his own goal, just wrapping his foot around it. Did hit his arm, but it was as it was on the floor and he had to steady himself.
Now David trying to make a nuisance of himself up against Thiaw, who manages to chest the ball back to Pope. You can hear around the stadium fans claiming that was a pass back, but it wasn't off the foot of Malik Thiaw, it came off his chest. Pope bowls it overarm right down the centre of the field, looking for Voltemada in the centre circle, but Burgess lent into him and stopped him getting it under control. And with 7.5 minutes to the break, Union SG in possession with Osenu Niang on the left-hand side. Comes in field on the halfway line into the centre circle and then leaves it for Van der Perre under pressure from Guimaraes. He manages to work it back to the centre halves. El Hadj heads the ball in field, but it won't find David. And instead Kieran Trippier plays it down the line on this near side, the right to Guimaraes. Gets the better of Niang via a deflection and brings the ball into the Union SG half, and then Niang just nicks him from behind. No yellow card, says the referee, but it is a free kick to Newcastle, who lead by a goal to nil.
Cute, wasn't it? Really cute from Guimaraes, the little nutmeg through the legs, but then he's got to play it. I know he won a free kick, but actually that was the chance then, once you bypassed the player to counter-attack.
Oh, too strong a challenge by Van der Perre. He felt he'd won the ball on halfway, but the referee disagreed. He caught Sandro Tonali with a very strong challenge, but Van der Perre, despite protesting his innocence, goes into the referee's notebook. 1-0 Newcastle.
Well, there was 3 of them that went in for the same challenge. Tonali it was that came off worse. Van der Perre, I wonder whether he goes past his own man. I think what he's trying to say is that he's actually got the ball. There's a tiny bit of a follow-through, but again, a bit like Joelinton, maybe slightly unlucky. Again, the aggression in the challenge, but what's that when you look at it?
6 minutes to half-time on Talksport 2. Newcastle leading by a goal to nil. Sorgan for Union SG finds Rodriguez, who holds it up well just inside the Newcastle half, running across the line from right to left, brings it forward and plays a 1-2, gets it back, approaching the left-hand corner of the penalty area, still has it Rodriguez, but then one touch too many allows Newcastle to win the ball back, and then Elanga, being pressurised by Rodriguez, somehow manages to get it clear. Now the counter-attack is on. Joelinton releases Anthony Gordon down the inside left channel for Newcastle. Voltemada and Joelinton are up with him. Here is Joelinton trying to turn it back round the corner for Gordon, who moved inside at the edge of the box, but it just didn't come off for Newcastle.
Intricate again, wasn't it, from Newcastle? But it was the pass from Joelinton to Anthony Gordon that wasn't quite right on that counter-attack. It was slightly behind him, gave the opportunity for the opposition to get back in decent numbers, and then you're having to be intricate with the 1-2 that didn't quite come off. If that ball is ahead of Anthony Gordon, you can then sprint onto it and straight at the defender. There's the little tiny details that are so important.
Sorgan for Union SG up to halfway, and El Hadj. Now Niang plays a first-time ball onto the chest of David, and he tries to hook it out to the right wing looking for Kalaili, but it's Newcastle who won possession back. We're into the last 5 minutes of the first half. Can Newcastle see it through with this 1-0 lead intact to the half-time whistle here on Talksport 2 in the Champions League? Voltemada, whose deflected effort gave Newcastle the lead early in the piece. Now Elanga again in space to gallop down the right-hand side. Niang coming across to close down the space. Elanga goes down inside and then goes down. Penalty! Layson brought down Anthony Elanga as he was just inside the 18-yard area. It's a penalty, and Newcastle have the chance to extend their lead before half-time in Brussels.
Brilliant from Elanga. Lovely double step over to get away from Niang, and then Layson just doesn't need to go in. He really doesn't. El Hadj is there to stop Anthony Elanga, and in the end it's just so obvious that the referee has to make the easiest decision. Layson said he tried to pull out, but I'm afraid you're there, and Elanga couldn't go any further, clattered into his thigh, and it's a penalty.
Well, Elanga just picking himself up. He won't be taking the penalty. Just seeing who is going to take it. It's going to be Anthony Gordon. Kieran Trippier that had the ball in his hand, but Gordon is now going to place it on the spot. 9 goals last season for Newcastle. He was the player of the season before that. A chance for him to make it a 2-goal advantage for Newcastle as we approach half-time on Talksport 2. Sherpen, arms aloft on the goal line, is the man to beat. Gordon with a 3 or 4 pace run up to the ball. Can he make it 2-0 to Newcastle? Up steps Gordon, right-footed, sends the keeper the wrong way, buries it in the bottom right-hand corner, and it is 2-0 to Newcastle. Gordon has his goal. Newcastle have a bit of breathing space. That's so much better for Eddie Howe and co. Right on half-time, Union SG 0, Newcastle United 2.
Yeah, and he makes the most of Anthony Elanga's good work by putting that spot kick away, going as if he's going to whip it to the left-hand side and then just firmly side-footing it the opposite way to give Newcastle a 2-0 lead. But I'm going to say what most people should be thinking is, if you're worth nearly 70 million, there's no way you're not taking that. So we'll see how that continues. But Anthony Gordon doing the right thing, really calm, took his time, went through his routine. You could see that with the breathing technique that he used before taking the penalty. So it's only just now that the players are all lining back up in their own respective halves for the restart. And Sebastian Pocognoli, much to ponder, the Union SG manager at half-time. His team have been competitive and they've had their moments, but ultimately, after the euphoria of the 3-1 win in PSV on match day 1, bit of a reality check for the Belgian champions here, as Newcastle United have powered into this 2-goal lead. And we're into the last minute of normal time. Voltemade, who scored the first, tries to bring the ball down on the halfway line. Just had the ball taken off his toe by Van der Perre. And it'll break down the right-hand side for Kalaili. Drives the ball into the edge of the area, and it's El Hadj with a drive, and it's only just over the bar from just inside the 18-yard box from Anwar El Hadj. Just took a touch with his left, and as the ball landed on the half volley, tried to drive it with his right, but the ball had just bounced too much for him to keep it down. Goal kick. But it was a gift. It was sloppy from Newcastle. Voltemade taking too long when the counter-attack was on for them. And then Dan Burn with a poor pass. And then Kalaleni with a brilliant ball. He saw Rodriguez. Clever from Rodriguez. Just let it go beyond him to El Hadj. Decent first touch, but couldn't rotate his feet enough. He needed to take an extra step to get away from the ball. It was so close to him. He sort of slashes at it with his right foot. Half volley then goes up and over. Nick Pope's goal.
We've moved into 2 minutes of minimum stoppage time at the end of the first half. On Talksport 2, Union SG 0, Newcastle United 2. If you're just tuning into us, goals from Voltemade via a deflection, and Gordon from the penalty spot, putting Eddie Howe's men firmly in control on match day 2 after the disappointment of the Barcelona defeat at St James's Park. Now Trippier just guides the ball to Elanga, who's having to run back into his own half, knowing he's under pressure from El Hadj. Now Joelinton teases it out to the left-hand side for Gordon. Elanga's out there with him for the moment, just imbalancing Liverpool for Newcastle for a little bit on that left-hand side. Rodriguez wins it back for Union SG, tries to bring it clear, and then Elanga's caught by Van der Perre. He's going to have to be careful. He's on a yellow card, and that was not the best challenge from behind Anthony Elanga. And we're in that second minute of added time. Newcastle 2-0 up.
But that's what you're asking of the players, Sebastian Pocognoli, is if they're asking their players to be aggressive, you're going to risk being on that tightrope, aren't you, with every single challenge.
Trippier up to Voltemade, hugging the right-hand touchline on halfway. Gordon, good skill to turn away from his man in field. and works it out to the left-hand side. Byrne, oh, it's a heavy touch, and that did allow Zorgan to get a touch just for a moment for Union SG, but it's the other number 8 in possession now, Tonali. 2 minutes of minimum stoppage time are nearly up. All eyes will be on the referee. Won't be much more to add on, I don't suppose, now that the 2 minutes are up. And indeed, he does now blow his whistle. And Newcastle United are 45 minutes away from a very, very pleasing result in Brussels. They have a 2-goal lead, a 2-goal cushion against Union Saint-Gilloise, the Belgian champions. It all got underway when Sandro Tonali took a shot just after the quarter-hour mark from outside the area that was turned in to the net by Nick Voltemade for his 3rd Newcastle goal. Wrong footing the goalkeeper Sherpen for Union SG. But we had to wait until 2 minutes from half-time for the 2nd Newcastle goal, and that came after Elanga was fouled at the edge of the penalty area by Layson, and Anthony Gordon wrong-footed the goalkeeper from 12 yards. So all good, Dean Ashton, for Newcastle United at the break.
Yeah, all good so far. Been a good performance. They've kept the bulk of possession that's been allowed to be given to them by Union SG, who've had their moments. You know, set plays they've had plenty of, and a couple of shots at Nick Pope from the edge of the area. But they've looked a threat, haven't they, out wide, and especially on the right-hand side. Trippier and Elanga have had so much of the play. Both of the goals have come from that side. First of all, from Elanga's brilliant cross that then, when it was headed out to Tonali, Voltemade just steered in inadvertently, by the way. I'm not quite sure he knew that much. He just flicked a foot out at it. And then, of course, Anthony Elanga with some brilliant bit of skill to win the penalty for Gordon to convert. So all that play down the right-hand side, and Union SG not doing anything about it, not actually changing anything to help Niang on that side.
I wonder whether the systems actually helped Newcastle, because we were expecting, you and me, expecting Union SG to match Newcastle up 4-3-3, but not so. They played 3 at the back, and that space down the flanks is what's given Elanga all that space to exploit.
Yeah, that extra bit of cover in the middle, I would guess, for Union SG has meant Newcastle have had the extra player out wide, and they've got quality out wide, and they've punished them a couple of times, whereas actually Trippier might have been expecting Niang up against him all evening, really trying to test him in behind where he hasn't been.
Dean, for the time being, thanks very much indeed. Dean Ashton alongside me, Ian Danter on commentary. So we've reached the break in the Champions League. One of 3 Champions League commentaries we're bringing you tonight across the network. And very shortly on Talksport 2, we'll be hearing from Adam Bridge, who'll be your match commentator for the game that follows this in the Stade Louis II between Monaco and Manchester City. And we'll also hear from a couple of our Championship reporters as more EFL action takes place tonight, with games at Carrow Road and the Den to cover here on Talksport 2, with a half-time score: Union SG 0, Newcastle United 2.
Champions League live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Here for it. Book now at enterprise.co.uk.
It's the last chance to get yourself a ticket for tonight's Lotto draw.
It could be you.
Lotto from the National Lottery. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 18 or over.
TNT Sports presents.
We're all set.
Over 185 UEFA Champions League games. And all 342 Europa and Conference League matches.
Spurs have won the Europa League.
The stage is set.
Absolutely brilliant.
Get all these competitions in one place with TNT Sports on Discovery Plus, or watch TNT Sports channels on EE, Sky and Virgin Media. Subscription required. Age 18 plus. T's and C's apply.
You want the look, clean, close, sharp, but you don't have time to play around. Meet the Pitbull X5 series from Skullshaver.com. Our best-selling shaver, now even better. Smooth blades, stronger motor, better grip, built for speed, designed for skin. No mess, no mirror, no drama. 90 seconds and you're done. Fresh, confident, ready. Pitbull X5 range by Skullshaver. Available now at Skullshaver.com.
Mickey could try to sell his car privately. Or get it sold today with We Buy Any Car. He could spend days on end trying to sell to a bunch of time wasters. Or sell in a flash and head to the fun fair with the kids. Proper gutted. Or proper impressed. To get a quote in 30 seconds, enter your reg number now at weaveanycar.com.
It's the last chance to get yourself a ticket for tonight's Lotto draw.
It could be you.
Lotto from the National Lottery. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 18 or over.
Jim White and Simon Jordan on Talksport. Mid-morning radio that's up for the job.
He spent £500 million to get precisely nowhere.
Concrete sports talk.
It really is incredible.
Rapid setting opinion.
You're not justifying it, but you're explaining it. It doesn't need an explanation.
Big names, all biked up.
Anthony Joshua, good afternoon.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Delivered tomorrow morning from 10 on Talksport by Selco Builders Warehouse. Check stock at your local branch. We've got it at selcobw.com. Dress to impress for a live football Friday night double bill belter. Full Premier League comms of Bournemouth versus Fulham on Talksport and Championship Wrexham versus Birmingham on Talksport 2. Kick-off 8 p.m. both games. What a turn, what a goal! 4 teams, 2 leagues, 1 Friday night on the Footwork Network.
It's the reason Marconi invented radio and God gave you ears.
And he scored, it's a brilliant goal!
The Champions League, live on Talksport 2.
And the referee decides enough is enough, and Manchester City get off and running with 3 points.
I could not care less what the people say about things. So we are favourites during 9 years every time.
3rd minute 0-0. Arenta goes up at the near post and Dyer will smash it home.
For sure, we need a fantastic day.
Oh, lovely turn from Doku at the edge of the area, weaving his way through. Doku, oh, what a goal! What a magnificent individual effort from Jeremy Doku.
We'll be favourites if we, step by step, every game we are better and better.
And this is why we love the Champions League. It's full throttle, high energy, non-stop action.
You're listening to the Champions League live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever it is, they're here for it. At half-time, it's Union Saint-Gilloise 0, Newcastle United 2. Myself, Ian Danter and Dean Ashton bringing you second-half commentary on that in just a tick. Once we're done, we'll bring you more Champions League action at the Stade Louis II. Manchester City travelling to face AS Monaco. Let's preview the game with your match commentary team for that game. Scott Minto's alongside Adam Bridge.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ian. It's an intriguing encounter tonight for match day 2. Man City, of course, coming to Monaco for only the second time in the Champions League. Last time out was in the second leg of a knockout tie. It finished 6-6 on aggregate that night, but then Monaco did have the likes of a young 18-year-old Kylian Mbappe and Radamel Falcao amongst the starting 11. Obviously a good victory on the opening day against Napoli. Monaco, well, they were well beaten by Club Brugge. They've not been in bad form in Liga, currently lying in 4th place, 3 points behind PSG and Lyon, who lead the way. Scott, I mean, the one thing tonight probably for Man City is, bearing in mind the off-colour season they had, shall we call it, in the Champions League last year, they've lost their last 4 on the road in this competition. So I'm going to guess Pep wants to get back to winning ways.
Off colour, I like that. I've never heard that one before, but I think that's a nice way of putting it for sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think it was really important in the first game in match day 1 to win, and they did, and won pretty comfortably. But it is a worrying stat, isn't it? You know, looking at it, and if you are going to go deep into the competition, and I'm sort of saying this season, whenever anybody says to me, look, who do you think is going to win it? I don't judge anything after what happened last season. 1, it was a new format. We didn't know how it would all turn out. 2, even as late as Christmas time, did anyone really believe that PSG would go on and dominate in the way they did? How they started the Champions League table. So, look, absolutely, this is about City. This is not a strong Monaco side, but obviously playing away from home will be difficult. It is something which he'll want to turn around. He'll want to not just come back with a draw. He'll want to come back with all 3 points and try and start dominating at the top of this table and get to qualify a little bit earlier than a lot of other teams, and then he can start to maybe make some changes as the winter kicks in. So, yeah, it'll be very positive tonight, I'm sure. They're still not quite firing on all cylinders. I think the game, the scoreline at the weekend flattered them a little, but they know they've got players of moments, and that's what he'll be looking for tonight.
A lot of talk pre-game about Bernardo Silva coming back to his former club, of course, captain of Manchester City as well. I mean, the qualities, he's made over 100 appearances in the Champions League. He just oozes class and quality, doesn't he?
It's not bad, is he? I think he's got a career ahead of him. Look, he's a wonderful player. I've got nothing but admiration and total respect for players that don't necessarily rely on their athleticism, their pure pace. And that's something which, Bernardo Silva hasn't done. He's sharp, he's quick off the mark, but the first few yards are in his head. And his touch and his passing, just sensational. And they are in a moment of transition after what happened last season. There's no doubt about it. It was interesting that he wasn't one of the players. Not only was he not one of the players that Pep wanted to get rid of, but actually he made him his captain as well. So he'll be expected to be a leader tonight for sure.
And we shall see. We'll get the team news for you shortly. We'll bring that to you when we have it. But we're underway at 8 o'clock tonight in the Principality. Scott Minto will be alongside me for Monaco against Manchester City.
Thanks very much, Adam. So, as soon as we're done with Union Saint-Gilloise against Newcastle, then Adam and Scott will take over for the commentary from the Stade Louis II. Also, there's 4 more championship games tonight in the EFL. QPR take on Oxford at 8. Portsmouth against Watford is a 7:45 kickoff. An unbeaten Coventry City travel to Millwall, looking to maintain their strong start to the season. Watching at the Den for Talksport 2, Ian Abrahams.
And Frank Lampard's Sky Blues, unbeaten and top scorers in the Championship, are unchanged from the side that thumped Birmingham, 10-man Birmingham, 3-0 at the weekend. So that means Rushworth's in goal, Van Ewijk, Thomas, Kitching and De Silva across the back, Thorpe and Grimes with Sacramento, Eccles, Thomas Sante and Wright. Millwall, by the way, they can go second tonight, 2 points behind Middlesbrough with a win. Millwall can go into the top 6 with victory tonight. They've only managed 6 goals in 7 games this season, so they're not free scoring, but they do welcome back their top scorer from last year, and he's just signed a new contract, Ivanovic. Cundle's fit as well to start. Mitchell, Negley and Harding also come in all 5 changes. Leno, Luongo, Ballo, Smallburn and Josh Coburn drop out, so it's Bender in goal, Harding, Camera, Kuba and Bryan across the back, Emanku, Mitchell, Mazu Serko and also Negley across midfield with Cundle and Ivanovic as the player playing up front. Should be a good game, hopefully, this one. Competitive. Team that doesn't score but doesn't concede too many against the top scorers in the entire division. It's Millwall Coventry and we start here at 7:45.
Thank you, Ian. Let's get across to Carrow Road for a moment because Mike Sewell is there to watch Norwich City against West Bromwich Albion tonight, and I know you keep your eyes very firmly on what's happening in East Anglia, Mike. What's happening with Norwich City's home form? There they are, 2 points off the relegation zone, and it's their poor home form that's got an awful lot to do with that predicament.
Yes, it is the $6 million question, Ian, because a lot of people here are surprised as to the form that they've seen so far this season at Norwich. 4 defeats, 3 of them in the league. If they were to lose again tonight, it would be the first time that they've ever lost their first 4 league games of the season at home. Their away form has been respectable. In fact, they started really well away from home, but here they just haven't been able to get going, and it's been a bit of a conundrum for Liam Manning, who, of course, as many people know, is a Norfolk boy. He used to come here and watch back in the 90s when he was young, but he's not been able to solve the problem as yet. Maybe tonight is the night, and in many people's eyes it has to be tonight, because there's the small matter of the East Anglian derby on Sunday at Ipswich, and they haven't lost to Ipswich for 16 years in a derby game, so things have got to change pretty quick.
Thank you very much, Mike. And Mike and Ian will be part of the team updating you with goals tonight from the Championship in amongst our commentaries. Don't forget Arsenal Olympiacos on Talksport at 8, Monaco Manchester City at 8 on Talksport 2. But in Belgium tonight, it's Newcastle creating all the bedlam. Let's see what El Hadj can conjure up from this right-wing corner for the Belgians. Up it goes into the area. Burgess was there and headed over the top by Rodriguez. It's cleared away. Tonali at the edge of the area, drives it in, and via a deflection, Newcastle take the lead.
And absolutely nothing Sherpan could do with that deflection.
And it comes to the near post, flicked away by Langer, comes out to Zorgan again at the edge of the area, left-footed drive this time, and Pope turning behind for another corner. Space for Trippier on the right. Can he work the cross into the box? He can. Jolinton with a header, and it's just wide of the post. Elanga goes down inside and then goes down. Penalty. Up steps Gordon, right-footed, sends the keeper the wrong way, buries it in the bottom right-hand corner, and it is 2-0. And the players are out at the Anderlecht Stadium ahead of the second half, but there will be a change for Union SG, and they are taking off Promise David, their Canadian striker, and bringing on a Swiss Mark Geiger, who joined in January from the Schaffhausen club. He's only scored 1 goal so far. It's more of a left winger, really. I'll see how that affects the Union SG lineup as things get back underway. But it's David off and Geiger on to replace him. Newcastle going with the same 11 as they started the game with, and it will be Union SG playing from left to right as we look. It will get the game back underway wearing their yellow and blue home strip. Newcastle in the black and white striped shirts but with white shorts and socks this evening. And they have Pope in goal, Trippier, Tuor, Botman and Byrne at the back, Guimaraes, Tonali and Jolinton in midfield, Ilanga, Voltemade and Gordon up front. Voltemade and Gordon, the 2 goal scorers. For USG, Sherpen is the goalkeeper, Kalaili, McAllister, Burgess, Layson, Van der Peer, Zorgan, El Hadj, Rodriguez, Geiger and Niang. We'll have a look and see whether that introduction of Geiger is going to change anything with regard to the way that Union SG are lining up. They played with 3 at the back in the first half, and Newcastle were able to exploit that time and time again. And here's Voltemade, good quick feet. They're trying to release Elanga again down the right-hand side, half cleared. He'll get it again, heads of the area, drives it, goal was saved by the goalkeeper straight out in front, but straight to Christian Burgess, who can thump it clear. With a minute gone in the second half, Newcastle already seeking a third, Dean Ashton.
Yeah, same system, same problems. Anthony Elanga getting free once again. Voltemade, the first part in the centre circle was magnificent. That was Volta Messi for sure. The footwork, honestly, the footwork was brilliant to get away from 3 players. And then when it came back to him again, the touch was brilliant. Played it into Elanga, and he did the right thing taking the strike. Just didn't get it far enough away from Sherpan to that far corner.
I don't suppose it would have been that difficult a team talk for Eddie Howe to give at half-time, would it, Dean?
No, especially with the amount of possession that they had. Can you continue that? Can we continue to get it out wide, especially to the right-hand side? If they keep allowing that, then we're going to get chances and goals.
Voltemade trying to turn at the edge of the area. Burgess up against him. Rolls it to the right for Elanga, but there was a push by Voltemade on Burgess. And he looks open-mouthed at the referee. What? I didn't do anything wrong, but it's a free kick to Union SG, and there's definitely a push. 2-0 to Newcastle.
Yeah, there was, but I think he's more frustrated that actually, if he hadn't miscontrolled that, he could have played it earlier to Elanga. He miscontrolled it, and then Burgess got a touch, so he pushed him, and the opportunity was gone.
You're listening to this game brought to you in partnership with TNT Sports, the home of European football. Anthony Gordon away down the left-hand side, but he runs into Geiger, who's playing on the right-hand side of midfield, it appears, for Union SG, having just come on. He's in possession now, bang on halfway. Tries to clip it over the top for El Khalili, who's in behind Dan Bird, and into the area, and bends a left-footed shot wide. What a chance for Khalili to get Union SG back into the game. Got goal side of Dan Byrne, tried to wrap his left foot round it, beat Pope, but also beat the far post.
Yeah, so close, wasn't it? I'm surprised they haven't used that more. That ball just over the top of Dan Byrne. Khalili with a really good first touch to get out of his feet with the chest, and then just try to steer it, curl it into that far corner, and just set it out too far outside the post for it to come back, when actually maybe could have squared it across actually as well for Niang, who was totally free.
And he saw the goal opening up for him there, did Anand Khalili, who joined from Maccabi Haifa last year. That's the best chance that Union SG have had, you could say. It's certainly the clearest cut. Newcastle 2-0 up, and Trippier down the right-hand side tries to tease the ball into the box. It came off Niang and then back off Trippier to go behind for a goal kick, and no great complaints from Kieran Trippier. I think he knew.
And the only issue, and I feel for Voltemade at times, is when you play that lone striker role, especially the way he's playing it, where he's coming short, linking, then he's getting out wide. You can't get in the box. So Kieran Trippier there, eventually with the opportunity to cross, he looks up and he can't see his big centre forward up there, because he's the one that started the whole move with the ball into his feet. There's not a lot. It's hard to change that, really. It's then obviously the job of Gordon from the other side, one of the midfield players, to get in there.
Space again for Kalaili down the right-hand side for Union SG, running at Byrne this time. Gets to the right-hand corner of the area. On his left foot, floats it to Niang on the far side of the area. Niang goes past Trippier, drives it into the near post, straight off the chest of Pope, and comes back out. El Hadj leaves it. Layson with a drive, it's blocked by Guimaraes. Then Zorgan with a drive, well held by Nick Pope right on his goal line, as Union SG look to get back into this game. 5 gone in the second half. Newcastle still 2 up.
Yeah, they're not going to give it up, are they, in front of their home fans? It was a good ball over towards Niang, who just got away from Trippier and just smashes it straight into the stomach of Nick Pope, who you could almost hear from here the exhale of breath as he just tensed his stomach muscles to just repel that effort. And then again, Zorgan, must be his 3rd attempt. Really, really good strike, zipping off the surface, but nicely held from Pope down to his left.
You also heard the whistle of the referee for a foul by Christian Burgess on halfway that's earned the former Portsmouth man a yellow card for his trouble. So that's the second USG player out there who's on a yellow card at the moment. Also Joe Linton on a yellow for Newcastle. Here's Voltemade getting a ball out to the right-hand side and gets it back from Elanga. Then a lovely ball inside to Guimaraes, approaching the edge of the area, but Union SG got players back behind the ball, and then Layson wins a throw off Elanga. And the crowd just trying to rouse their players and trying to get the hosts back into this one. It's a big night for Union SG, a home game in the Champions League for the first time ever, but Newcastle are the party poofers at the moment.
Oh, yeah, you can't underestimate where they've come from to get to this position. They want to enjoy it, but they probably want their team to make a real game of it in this second half. Guimaraes goes down with a painful whack from that last attack, but Nick Voltemade is starting to show his full repertoire of skills when that ball gets played into his feet. It was a lovely reverse pass to set Newcastle away, and he's starting to enjoy himself.
I can't remember, and I've been watching football rather a long time, I can't remember the first time I heard the phrase good touch for a big man. It might have been dear old Mick Harford, who we know so well from his days at Luton and Newcastle and Birmingham, and still involved in the game at Luton Town, and that was back in the 1980s. But most certainly that phrase applies to Nick Voltemade, as Guimaraes is still receiving treatment. 2-0 Newcastle.
Of course, well, we all look at the size, don't we, and think, well, it must be more difficult to use your feet. Well, not so much for these top quality players. Peter Crouch was very similar.
Yes.
Many underestimated his technical ability, and he showed them up time and time again. He just rolled his ankle, Guimaraes. I know he might come on, and he's certainly a fighter with that captain's armband on, but that looked painful. Might continue just to swell a little bit as the second half goes on.
Yeah, just walking off the pitch a little awkwardly. Newcastle's next game is on Sunday against Nottingham Forest at St James's Park before the international break kicks in. Their next Champions League game will see Jose Mourinho and Benfica pitch up in the northeast in the back end of October. Then Athletic Bilbao are at St James's before a tricky trip, I would say, at the end of November to Marseille, who thumped Ajax last night and are looking very free-flowing. Leverkusen is another ground that Newcastle have to travel to before the end of 2025. Here come Union SG, 2-0 down. Rodriguez, the Ecuadorian striker, flicks the ball intelligently infield to Kalaili, into the centre of midfield for Van der Peer. Zorgan, who's had a number of long-range efforts from midfield for the Belgians and yet to find the back of the net. And then it's turned around the corner by Van der Peer, looking for the run of Kalaili, but Dan Burn thinks or pretends he's going to go in and clear it, and then just lets the ball run across his body and over the dead ball line for a goal kick to Newcastle United, who have won just one of their last 9 games in the Champions League. Newcastle, that was a 4-1 win against PSG a couple of years ago. It was a famous night, that win against Paris Saint-Germain. They've won 32% of their games in the Champions League, won 8 out of 25. Only Blackburn have got a lower win percentage in the competition from their campaign back in 95-96. Newcastle losing possession. Chance for Geiger to get forward down the right-hand side. Good interception by Dan Burn, who was in field, was very much out of position, but managed to step across and stop the Swiss substitute getting on the ball for Union SG. Joelinton now. 10 minutes gone in the second half. Union SG 0, Newcastle 2. We'll get team news from Monaco, Manchester City momentarily from Adam Bridge, who's watching that game with Scott Minto. That's the game that follows this one on Talksport 2 for your 8 o'clock Champions League offering. Ball's guided back to Kieran Trippier. Neat ball into the feet of Guimaraes. Voltemada tries to turn it around the corner down the right-hand side for Elanga, but that's dealt with at the back by Layson. And now McAllister has it for the Belgian champions.
Just needs to be a little bit of experience from Newcastle now. You're 2-0 ahead, you're away from home, they're going to give you a little bit more, and actually they've been giving the ball away, almost looking as if let's go and attack and get the you don't need to, just keep the ball, see as much of the time out as possible. You can catch them on the counter-attack if you need to. They're just making it a bit too chaotic still.
Let's get that team news from the Stade Louis II for our 8 o'clock Champions League game. Adam Bridge.
Yeah, one change from match day 1 for Manchester City. Kusanov is injured, of course. John Stones comes into the back line to play at right back, and Rodri is fit enough to start. 6 changes from Monaco from match day 1, but a first start for the on-loan Barcelona forward Ansu Fati, who scored 4 goals in 3 games from the substitutes bench so far. We're underway at 8 o'clock for Monaco against Manchester City.
Thank you, Adam. Scott Minto will be alongside Adam for that commentary. Over on Talksport at the same time, Arsenal against Olympiacos at the Emirates Stadium. Newcastle in possession, 2-0 up and coming forward down the left-hand side with Anthony Gordon. Barged into by McAllister. Really obvious challenge and a yellow card. So easy for the referee to give. Nowhere, he definitely played the man, not the ball there, Dean Ashton.
He did. He had a little smile then.
He's got a gum shield in, I've just noticed, McAllister.
Well, that's why I noticed the smile towards Burgess, as if, well, he wasn't. Once he's nipped it past me, he's not going to continue, and just shoved into him.
The referee won't have given many easier yellow cards in his career than that one that he's just brandished to Kevin McAllister. So, Newcastle free kick down the left-hand side of the Union SG penalty area. Tonali very carefully placing the ball down. He might be looking for the valve. He might be doing one of those free kicks where the ball.
I think he's just admiring the ball. The Champions League ball. How beautiful!
It's a pretty thing. It's a very pretty thing. You almost don't want to boot it as hard as you can. It just feels like it's abuse. There's a clutch of players standing just in front of the 6-yard line, and the referee just keeping an eye on any pushing and shoving. Dan Burn protesting his innocence. Tonali standing over this free kick. He's going to whip it in right-footed towards the goalkeeper. 2-man wall in front of him. Whipped in by Tonali, but claimed comfortably just in front of goal by Sherpan, the keeper, who bowls it out overarm looking for Geiger, but that was dealt with at least well initially by Elanga, and then he just tricked himself and let it go out of play for a throw. 2-0 Newcastle.
So poor though from Tonali. Sherpan has shown that he will come and claim if you put it anywhere near him, and then you just float it in the air.
A change for Newcastle, their first of the night, and Lewis Miley, Newcastle born and bred, joined at the age of 7 from County Durham. He's coming on for Joelinton, who is on a yellow card, as we mentioned at the start of this second half, and he was in the wars a little bit as well when he fell heavily in the first half, making a brave header, Dean Ashton. So there could be a couple of reasons why Eddie Howe elected to make that change there.
I think so. I mean, his face says that he probably wasn't expecting it, but ultimately, again, you're 2-0 ahead. There has to be some sort of protection mode to that. You don't want Joelinton getting sent off and making it difficult. I think it's the right decision.
58 minutes gone on Talksport 2. You're listening to Union Saint-Gilloise 0, Newcastle 2 in the Champions League. Live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever it is, they're here for it. Newcastle trying to keep possession on halfway. Tonali is brought down by Geiger in the centre circle, and the substitute's going to get a yellow card for that, and he says again to the referee, that's my first foul. But the ref says it's bad enough to get a yellow, son, and then he goes into the book.
I mean, again, it's an easy yellow. Tonali's away. and he just takes him out. I think he's probably saying, well, hang on, actually, Van der Perre is very lucky that then Geiger goes in for the second challenge, because he takes out Guimaraes poorly with the first challenge.
It's very true, actually. Van der Perre is on a yellow card from the first half, but the referee only had eyes for the challenge on Tonali from Geiger that gets him a yellow card. So Newcastle in possession just inside their own half. Guimaraes floats it out to the right hand side, and Trippier brings it down on his chest. Now comes in field, plays it back into square, back to Botman, driven out to the left hand side for Anthony Gordon, trying to trick his way past two Union SG players. He's done really well, Anthony Gordon, to keep possession, and then knocks it back to halfway, and he's caught by Van der Perre again off the ball, and the referee might want to have a word with Van der Perre when the ball next goes dead. Meanwhile, Elanga works it in field for Guimaraes. Now Voltemade with his back to goal 30 yards out, plays it back to Byrne at the edge of the centre circle. Now Miley gets involved for the first time since coming on, finds Gordon left hand side, whipped in centre, dangerous, might drop in front of goal. Brilliant clearance from Layson. There's some claims for handball by two Newcastle players in there, but the referee sees nothing wrong with it, and play continues. 2-0 Newcastle on the hour.
I know I harp on about it a lot, but honestly, if the delivery's that good, it causes so many problems for the defenders. If you can just get that ball in the right area with pace, right in behind the defenders, facing their own goal, it makes it so difficult. It just didn't quite fall for Voltemade, who was adamant, you're right, that it had hit the hand.
Well, referee has stopped play for a moment, and he's going to look at the VAR screen. He's been called over to the referee review area for a potential penalty check. Now this is for that wicked cross that was just put into the Union SG box. Was there a handball in there with the two Union SG players running back towards their own goal, trying to protect what they had? So Urs Schneider is going across, and it's Layson who's the player being looked at. Voltemade at his back. It catches Layson on the right forearm. Is the arm in an unnatural position? The ball does strike the arm, of that there is no question, but is it ball to hand or hand to ball? The referee has had a look, he does the VAR sign and gives the penalty to Newcastle. Layson handball, and another chance from 12 yards for Newcastle United to extend their lead here.
Yeah, I think we've seen this in the Champions League a little bit more than the Premier League, that when it just strikes the arm and it's going towards the attacking player, they're going to give the penalty. Layson's trying to say that to the referee. I was in a natural position, the ball's just skipped past me. I've got 6'6" Voltemade behind me on my back. What are you expecting? He's not like he's prodded his arm out. I feel sorry for the defenders in these situations. Voltemade's all over him, and yes, it does strike the arm. There's not a lot you can do. I'd love those referees. You go and get into a clinch with a centre forward at the same time and see if it might not hit your hand. But look, we're at that stage, and Gordon's got the chance to get his second from the spot.
Well, he put his first penalty to the goalkeeper's left. Where does he go this time, Anthony Gordon? A chance to put Newcastle 3-0 up here, up against Sherpen once more, as he was late in the first half. Gordon with that 3 or 4 pace run up once more for a chance for 3-0, and he takes it again. He goes to the bottom right hand corner. This time Sherpen guessed right, but got nowhere near it because of the quality of the penalty, the quality of the strike. Newcastle going to win away from home in the Champions League. Much needed response to the home defeat to Barcelona. 63 gone. It's Union SG 0, Newcastle 3.
Sherpen did take a step, but it wasn't committed enough. I would have gone the same way if I was the goalkeeper. I'd have gone the way Anthony Gordon went, thinking, well, he's just going to go the same way. But the power was better than the first from Gordon, and it was more in the corner as well, to the left-hand side of the goalkeeper. Really punched that in with the side foot into the corner. Anthony Gordon to give Newcastle that 3-0 lead.
It's a great penalty. That's 25 goals for Anthony Gordon in his Newcastle career now. and Newcastle firmly in control of their own destiny here to the south and west of Brussels at the Anderlecht Stadium. And having scored 3 on match day 1, Union SG have conceded 3 on match day 2. And it could get worse because Tonali trying to break through the middle. McAllister comes across and heads it away. But just for a moment, Tonali was breaking through the middle there after a simple ball round the corner from the right-hand side. Got Newcastle away. They've got to recover their composure here, the Belgians. Otherwise, Newcastle could really go through the gears and administer some punishment. They're going to make changes. The host Rasmussen's going to come on in midfield for Union SG in a moment, with 25 minutes to go on Talksport 2. Dean Ashton.
Well, and also with the yellow cards that they've got with the players currently on, if Newcastle do start to dominate, you can expect one of those to maybe pick up a red.
Well, Kalaili, who had that chance early in the second half when he got in behind Dan Burn, he's heading away down the right-hand side, but his ball in field is dealt with by Newcastle. Gordon, who's now on a hat-trick with those 2 penalties, wins a throw just inside his own half. That may well bring the changes for Union SG. And indeed, I think the board is going to go up. Rasmussen is definitely one of those coming on. And the other is Ross Sykes. Lovely moment for him. Boyhood Newcastle fan. He's going to come on for Union SG, having plied his trade at Accrington Stanley down the years. Took the plunge and went to Belgium a few years ago. Really enjoying his football. Lovely moment for him. So Rasmussen, the midfielder, and Sykes are on. McAllister is one of those going off. And Van der Perre as well, who was on a yellow card. Well, they were both on yellow cards. So Dean Ashton, you're absolutely right. A bit of protection, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. But what a moment, you're right, for Sykes. Be alongside Burgess as well. A little nod to the EFL, isn't it? We do produce. The EFL does produce a lot of good players.
Well, you think of England's Player of the Year, Jude Bellingham, started his career in the EFL. In fact, you look at pretty much all that England side. They've all had EFL experience, whether as permanent signings or loan signings. Let's see how Messrs Burgess and Sykes deal with Newcastle if they attempt to extend their lead still further. Miley just slips in the centre circle, and that allows Zorgan to bring the ball away for the hosts. Kalaili down the right-hand side. Deep cross for Niang at the far post. Well dealt with by Trippier with a flick header just to keep it away from the left winger. And then Trippier hits it downfield. Voltemade, heavy touch, gets the ball back into Union SG possession. Works out to Niang left-hand side, midway point of the half. Rasmussen gets his first involvement, the former Norwegian under-21. Decent cross into the box, but nobody had really gambled in yellow and blue for Union SG, and it goes behind for a goal kick to Newcastle. Quarter of the game to go on Talksport 2, and Newcastle are 3-0 up.
Yeah, and they're pretty comfortable. Newcastle, it's a good ball in from Rasmussen, nobody there. But you can see why they're Belgian champions. You can see why they gave PSV a difficult run. They've got some good players. I like Zorgan in midfield, and Kalali on the right-hand side gets forward really well.
Voltemade, good touch just inside his own half. Keeps it away from the Union SG defence, but El Hadj comes scurrying back to win possession. They want to get something on the board here, just to give their fans something to cheer about. Sykes gets his first touch. Gives it to Burgess. Just shy of the halfway line. Back for Sykes once more. Gets his head up. Thinks about playing a ball through the middle for Rodriguez, but he just checked his run at the wrong moment for Sykes there, Rodriguez. Now on the right-hand side, Kalaili. Infield for Zorgan. Newcastle nice and compact in their defensive shape.
Which I'm surprised didn't happen sooner in this second half with that 2-0 lead, but obviously now with 3 can absolutely just sit into a shape, especially with this early kick-off. I can imagine that there'll be a few Geordies that'll enjoy themselves out there.
Oh, quite. They want to keep a clean sheet. Here comes El Hadj for Union, curls it right-footed, and it skims the roof of the net on its way over. Pope did fling up his right arm at it, but El Hadj just had a go there from 25 yards. I think Pope had it covered, and it did just skim the roof of the net on its way over the bar. Goal kick Newcastle, who lead 3-0 on Talksport 2.
But that came from a ball out towards Niang, who just got ahead of Trippier. I'm surprised they didn't play him up against him this evening. But it fell to El Hadj. You're right, he had loads of time to size it up. He was just trying to whip and dip one up and over Pope, and again just put a little bit too much on it.
Now there's a heavy challenge from Rodriguez on Botman rather, on halfway. Rodriguez shakes his head. I didn't do anything wrong, didn't see him coming. Only had eyes for the ball, says the striker. Botman came from behind and came off, was landed awkwardly right on his chest. But I think he's going to be okay. Rodriguez not been punished. 20 minutes to go on Talksport 2, with Monaco against Manchester City to follow immediately after this commentary. Adam Bridge and Scott Minto will be your team watching that game unfold in the Stade Louis II. As Adam mentioned, Stones playing at right back for Manchester City tonight, and Ansu Fati getting the nod up front for Monaco. Union SG in possession at the back, 3-0 down here, guided back from Zorgan to the keeper Sherpen. He just chips it to Kalairi down the right back channel, tries to immediately send Geiger away. There's a triple change on the way for Newcastle United. I can see 3 black and white shirts down there ready to enter the fray, and they will get their chance once the ball next goes out of play.
But it's a big performance, much needed. Bit of pressure before the game, obviously wanting to get points on the board in the Champions League for Newcastle.
Well, here's Anthony Gordon. Oh, lovely ball trying to get Voltemada away. Good interception from Burgess, however. Just looked for a moment like Gordon had weighted that pass perfectly, but Burgess stuck out a long leg and got something on there. So Lewis Hall is going to come on in a moment for Newcastle United. But the first change for Newcastle, we'll see Harvey Barnes coming on for Nick Voltemada. So another goal to his name to start his Newcastle career. So it's Elanga, Voltemada and Bruno Guimaraes who are making way for Messrs Hall, Barnes and Osula, who are coming on to play out these last 18 minutes or so for Newcastle United. Eddie Howe just wanted to give a few minutes to some of the fringe players who don't get that much pitch time. And Barnes, who has been playing in midfield whilst Gordon was serving a suspension, he's got a chance to show what he can do for 20 minutes or so, Dean.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll switch to a back three, I would expect, with Hall playing as a left wing back, Trippier going a bit further ahead, and then Anthony Gordon and Barnes will just play, I think, in behind Osula.
Meanwhile, Sofiane Boufal, once of Southampton, is on for Union SG, having replaced Kevin Rodriguez. Been playing in the UAE, has Boufal, since leaving Southampton. Joined a year ago at the Belgian champions from Al Rayyan. He's on for the Belgians, who are 3-0 down, looking to find a route back into this Champions League tie. But Newcastle are going to get their first 3-point haul with 17 minutes to play. 3-0 to the good. And a chance just to see out time here. And as Dean Ashton's rightly said, the Newcastle fans in Brussels are going to have a jolly good night this evening on that innocuously strong beer that they serve in the Brussels night spots.
Yes. You'll catch most out, that will.
Oh, yeah.
But so they should enjoy it.
And Tonali was dispossessed. He stayed down. Geiger bringing the ball forward for the host. He's going to go for goal from distance, straight into the chest of Nick Pope, who made a comfortable save. Another shot from distance goes a-begging for the Belgians, and Tonali needs some treatment after he was dispossessed bang on halfway. He's not moved since that challenge was put in. Worrying for Newcastle United. Now he's moving once the referees come over. He's just feeling his right knee, and he has got back to his feet, dragged back to his feet by Niang.
Well, that's what you don't now need. There's a bit of a clash with Rasmussen. You don't now need an injury once the game's pretty sewn up as it feels like it is. You then don't want to pick up an injury going into the weekend.
As I mentioned, Nottingham Forest to come to St James's Park on Sunday afternoon. And Tonali spent so long out of the game because of the publicised off-field problems. Here comes Lewis Hall for Newcastle, up to the edge of the area. Just can't get past Kalaili, who did really well, stayed on his feet and won the challenge. Work back into the centre circle for Thiaw. Now Trippier, just shy of the halfway line. Plays the ball into the feet of Tonali, looks to have run off the injury. On the far right-hand side, it's Barnes. Plays a 1-2 at Tonali and gets away. Whips the ball up to the edge of the area, looking for Gordon, but defender stepped in front of Gordon and got it clear. So Gordon played through the middle now, effectively, Dean, with Voltemade off.
Well, just behind Asula, but certainly getting more centrally in his positioning because of Hall on the left. And lovely bit of work from Barnes, wasn't it? It was the right pass. Gordon just wasn't expecting it, but he'll want his hat-trick, won't he? His Champions League hat-trick.
Oh, most definitely. Inside his own half here, Gordon just feeds the ball back to Thiaw, who's had a good, uncomplicated game at centre-half. The former Milan centre-half, Malik Thiaw. Plays the ball backwards to square to Botman. Into the feet of Gordon, just shy of the halfway line. Lovely little drop of the shoulder to get away from Rasmussen there. Tonali strokes the ball out to Trippier, right-hand side. Barnes ahead of him, picks it up now for Newcastle. Trippier's gone on the overlap, but Barnes has come in field from the right-hand side. Now it goes back out to the right. Barnes takes over again. And has it again in a bit of space. Chance to run at Layson. Down the right-hand side, comes in field. Harvey Barnes still got it. Plays a 1-2 at the edge of the area. Vital interception from Sykes to turn it behind for a Newcastle corner. With 13 minutes to go, 3-0 to Newcastle United.
That's just not really what you need, is it, as a defender? All of a sudden you've got the sharpness of Harvey Barnes wanting to impress. Lovely bit of work again, looking for that 1-2. You're right, Sykes, just reading it and stretching out that right leg.
And Kalaili just, I don't know, it's a bit of cramp he's suffering from the Union SG full-back, but he was just flat on his back inside his own penalty area, but he's actually coming off to be replaced by Louis Patrice, who just joined the club from Saint-Gilloise in Belgium, former Anderlecht player, so he's back on his old stomping ground, Louis Patrice, because this game is being played in Anderlecht's home stadium. Kalaili had a decent game at right back, and he had a good chance early in the second half for Union SG. But here's a corner for Newcastle. Swinging from the right-hand side. Byrne goes up for the header, and it goes wide. And he rose really well. And Thiaw was in there as well, but it goes wide of the post, and the Belgians have a goal kick. 12 to go, 3-0 to Newcastle.
He hasn't lost that ability from set plays, has he, Trippier? Bang on the money, that one. Just outside, swinging away from the goalkeeper, just outside the 6-yard box, waiting for someone to go and attack it. Byrne was there, but in the end just got in the way of Thiaw, and the header then just bounced off the top of his head, really, rather than the forehead.
I can still vividly remember the first time I saw Kieran Trippier play. He was playing for Burnley at the time in a championship game against Nottingham Forest at the City Ground, and I was so impressed, Dean, not just with the quality of the ball in, but the varying different areas he was willing to put balls in from. He was happy to put them in from deep. He would get past his man at times, but for a right back, it's rare that a right back catches the eye as much as he did that night. And he's just gone on to have this stellar career, scored at World Cups for his country, and a brilliant servant to Newcastle too.
Yeah, and almost maybe 5 years too early in terms of just how we've looked at that right back position. He was already doing sorts of things that we see regularly now from attacking full-backs. But like you said, that variedness of his delivery.
Boufal going for goal, pushed wide by Nick Pope to his right-hand side. Decent strike from the former Southampton man. Pope equal to it, Union SG corner, 3-0 Newcastle.
Yeah, it came from nothing really, wasn't it? Just ball into Boufal. He just had a little look over his shoulder, took it on the back foot and struck from good 30 yards. Pope really comfortable with it.
Short corner played to the left-hand corner of the box. Here's Boufal again. Faced up by Gordon, who managed to take the ball off the toe of Boufal and then clips it in field to Harvey Barnes, turns it over on halfway, and now away come Newcastle United. A chance to feed it back to Harvey Barnes in the area. Number 4, Harvey Barnes, the substitute. Brilliant stuff from Newcastle on the counter-attack. Gordon brought it away. Osula carried the ball downfield after Barnes had fed him, and he timed the pass back to Barnes to perfection, did William Osula, and Barnes committed the keeper, lifted it over him, and Newcastle have a 4th.
Well, that's been begging to happen for Newcastle on the counter-attack. They've had numerous opportunities where they've got into these positions and not made the most of them, but Osula, brilliant in the timing of the pass. He could have played it early, he didn't. He just waited enough for the defender to move before he slipped it down the side of El Hadj, and then Patrice couldn't quite get back, and it's a tiny bit fortunate as he goes to side foot it in. Harvey Barnes, it just takes a little deflection off Patrice's foot and lifts up and over a falling Sherpan into that near post for 4-0.
Harvey Barnes, who scored 9 goals last season for Newcastle United, gets his first goal in the Champions League this season for the Toon Army, and it's 4-0 with less than 9 minutes of normal time to play. And this is a real Champions League lesson being handed down to the new boys against Newcastle, whose Champions League experience, let's not forget, is not that extensive, particularly in recent seasons, but this is as professional a performance as Eddie Howe could have wished for coming here tonight, Dean Ashton.
Oh, very much so. They'll be delighted with it.
But here's Patrice down the right-hand side of the area, playing a ball across the face of goal, and Trippier decides to put it behind for a corner kick. Didn't really get a shout, or at least he didn't think he got a shout. Niang was behind him, so he decided the discretion, the better part of valour, and it's a corner kick to the Belgians. But Newcastle lead 4-0.
Yeah, they are game, aren't they? That's can't be questioned of this Belgian side, but maybe naive again. The 5th could come if they keep.
Corner kick goes all the way across the face of goal, and Pope was a bit worried for a moment that Zorgan's kick was going to drift all the way into the far corner of the net, direct from the corner, but it wasn't to be in the end. And there's going to be more changes before Pope can take the goal kick. And Fabian Schär is going to get a few minutes out there for Newcastle. Going to replace Kieran Trippier, who has put in, I think it's fair to say, Dean Ashton, another fantastic little shift for his club at right back.
Especially first half, when you think that was where they made the most of the possession that they had on the right hand side. Him and Alanga combined well, and he knows when to play it to his winger, when to support, when to overlap. That bit of experience that he's got, and then terrific delivery when he does get wide.
Hasn't played since the Barcelona game. Played just over an hour in that match, Fabian Schär, but he'll play out time here. So less than 7 minutes to go. Remember, we're off to the Stade Louis II. As soon as we're done here on Talksport 2, our next Champions League encounter is just around the corner as Monaco take on Manchester City. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff. Also Arsenal Olympiacos on Talksport at the same time. Here's Anthony Gordon for Newcastle. Lovely ball into the area from the left-hand side, but nobody had really gambled. Harvey Barnes with the furthest player forward. Union SG get it clear, but instantly won back by Lewis Miley for the Toon Army.
He's looked a lot more like himself, Anthony Gordon, tonight. Been that real driving force. They're away again.
Tonali driving forward, tried to flick the ball in field for Osula, but it went behind the former Sheffield United man, and the Belgians have it back. Just over 5 minutes to go. And you're listening to Union Saint-Gilloise 0, Newcastle 4 in the Champions League, live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Here for it. Book now at enterprise.co.uk. Monaco, Manchester City on the way next. It's a strange stadium, that Stade Louis II. I was in Monaco once and walking around and suddenly came upon the stadium. It sort of cropped up out of nowhere. It's not the most imposing of places, the Stade Louis II. Certainly the boats in the harbour are slightly more impressive.
Yes, I was going to say overshadowed.
But a fantastic setting for Manchester City to try and strut their stuff to follow up their win against Napoli. That's next on Talksport 2. Newcastle looking to keep a clean sheet here and make it a perfect night in Brussels. Oh, lovely turn from Botman to get away from Geiger. Dropped his shoulder when he looked like he was running out of play. But the ball still drops for the Belgians. Buffal with his back to goal 30 yards out. Buffal takes over again, finds Zorgan out to the left-hand side and Niang. 4 waiting for a cross in yellow and blue. Niang gets to the dead ball line, but the cross is too heavy. Tipped with too much pace, got an amble in his boot there. Does Niang, it goes out of play for a Newcastle throw in their left-back position. 4-0.
It's a good clearance, wasn't it, from Niang in the end. Did so well to get to the byline, and then what a waste when you've got 4 players in there.
Well, this game brought to you in partnership with TNT Sports, the home of European football. So yeah, a bit of a lesson for Union Saint-Gilloise tonight. They've got Inter Milan coming here in their next home game, then away to Atletico Madrid, away at Galatasaray, who I saw beat Liverpool last night. So it's not going to get any easier for the Belgian champions in their first ever Champions League campaign. Niang trying to dispossess Malik Thiaw, and it has gone out for a Belgian throw on the far left-hand side. Belgian fans trying to rouse their team one last time as they swirl their yellow and blue scarves around their heads. But ultimately, it's not going to mean anything. Newcastle are going to have the 3 points to take back to Tyneside. Here is Buffal, knocking it down to Sykes. Sykes just lofts the ball into the area, headed away by Thiaw. And then Lewis Hall does really well, gets the ball in field to Tonali. Now he's driving forward again, 4-on-3 for a moment for Newcastle. Plays the ball behind Harvey Barnes, does Tonali, so he has to check his run. The score of Newcastle's 4th goal, but he still has it. Harvey Barnes up to the right-hand corner of the area. Tonali with him. 4 waiting for a cross. Tonali not going to give them that cross. Instead, he's going to roll it back down the touchline to Thiaw and back into the centre circle for Botman. No need for Newcastle to really press too high up the field. They've got the win. They've got the 4 goals. They've got the 3 points. And they've got their Champions League campaign off and running. Square ball to Dan Burn, just inside his own half. Plays it to Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall looking for the run of Gordon down the left-hand side. Couldn't find him. And then Dan Burn using his giant frame just to muscle Sofiane Buffal out of the way and keep Newcastle in possession, 4-0.
Well, what this result does is, look, it doesn't take the pressure completely off, but what it does is it means it gives you a real chance then for your home fixtures that they've got coming up in this competition to then go and really build on this. Otherwise, if they come away from here with a draw or even a defeat, suddenly if you're thinking, right, we're really on the back foot, we've got to have to then win those games.
Well, I'm sure Eddie Howe will have had scouts watching Benfica's performance last night at Chelsea. They lost by 1-0, Jose Mourinho's men. That's Newcastle's next opponents at St James's Park in this competition. Now, a little push on Layson, the left back, from a Newcastle player to give Union SG a free kick. It was Barnes who went in too strongly for the referee's liking on the Union SG centre half. So a chance for the Belgians to swing a free kick in as we head into the last minute of normal time. In fact, they've taken it short. Buffal, about 20 yards inside the Newcastle half of the field, plays it right to Sykes, the boyhood Newcastle United fan. A short pass returned to him, but he did really well actually, Sykes, to keep possession. Patrice floats the ball in field under pressure. Newcastle win it back. Gordon, who scored 2 penalties tonight and looked lively, but then he gives play up to Patrice. who's immediately dispossessed by Byrne. And it's worked in field by Lewis Hall into the centre circle. Brought forward by Barnes. Osula going through the middle. Barnes has gone ahead of him again. Osula to the edge of the D, tries a drive, blocked, comes out to Barnes, little quick feet, finds Tonali. Tonali flicks it to his right. Tior with a deep cross to the far post. Lewis Hall brings it down. Left-hand side of the area. Tries to play a 1-2, gets to the dead ball line, pulls it back. Tonali forces a great save from Sherpen to prevent a fifth for Newcastle. Just instinctively flew his arms up at Tonali's close-range effort. Corner kick Newcastle.
Well, it just felt like they were faffing around, didn't it, Newcastle? And just needed that bit of incisive play. Nice and quick from Hall. 1-2, delivery in. On the floor to Tonali, who catches it brilliantly, and the goalkeeper, super reactions. A bit of fingertips, a bit of his forehead to flick that over Sherpan.
So a corner kick is the result. We're into 4 minutes of minimum stoppage time. Tonali with the corner. Sykes heads it up in the air, drops at the far post, and Geiger with an acrobatic overhead kicked clearance sends Newcastle back to the halfway line to retrieve it. And then there's a foul by Niang, giving Newcastle a free kick. So yeah, nearly a minute of that minimum 4 that's been added on by the Swiss referee has already elapsed. Union SG 0, Newcastle United 4 here on Talksport 2, where we're off to the south of France next, to the Principality of Monaco for AS Monaco against Manchester City. Adam Bridge and Scott Minto will be picking up the cudgels in a few moments.
I mean, Scott Minto's Monaco type of man, isn't he? Definitely.
Yeah, dashing. Yeah, you can just see him eating al fresco in one of those 5-star restaurants.
Of course.
With one of those small cups of coffee that seems pointless to order because there's barely any coffee in it. Cup's like something off a doll's house, isn't it? One of those coffee. But that's exactly the sort of thing I would imagine he'd be quaffing whilst he's sitting there by the harbour. Forward come Union SG, looking for what would only be a consolation goal in their first home Champions League encounter. And they work it back to Rasmussen, out to Patrice on the right hand side, just clips the ball into the near post, and Geiger tries to, well, almost a scorpion kick attempt there by Geiger, but the ball just went straight up in the air, and a comfortable claim at his near post from Nick Pope. 4-0 Newcastle.
Quite a nice idea. Would have been probably Champions League goal of the season if he'd have scorpion kicked that over Nick Pope's head. But why not try? We're into the dying minutes of the game.
Well, they're not going to die wandering, Union SG. They are pressing high on Newcastle, despite the fact that we're 92.5 minutes into the game. But of course, that press allows Newcastle a bit of space to attack, which is what Barnes is doing as he motors into the Union SG half. But the ball forward for Osula is intercepted. One last chance maybe for the Belgians as they come forward with Boufal up to 30 yards out. Thought about a shot for a moment, then just ran straight into Lewis Hall, who gets it back from Miley. Does he? No, it's given away. Patrice down the right hand side. Good ball in field for Geiger, and the Swiss comes in field to the centre of the Newcastle half. 50 seconds of minimum stoppage time to play. Rasmussen looking to run into a bit of a cul-de-sac, but he's managed to work the ball out to the right hand side of Patrice, who might want to put the ball into the box. Instead he teases it down the right wing for Rasmussen. 3 waiting for a cross. Goes deep to the far post, but Tior stoops and heads it clear. Gordon guides it down. It won't quite break for Osula, and Burgess finds Layson. Now out to the left-hand side. Chance for Niang maybe to put one last ball into the box for Union. Gets to the dead ball line. Did he take the ball out of play before the cross came in? No, it's been given as a corner by the Swiss referee for one last set piece for the Belgian champions, who trail by 4 goals to 0.
He's given a goal kick.
He's realised in the end that the whole of the ball... Did the whole of the ball go over the ball? Yeah, I think it did.
I think it did.
So they're even denied a corner kick right at the end there, the Belgians. And I think once Nick Pope has sent the goal kick downfield, that will be that. And then I'll shortly be asking Dean Ashton for his man of the match. So get your thinking cap on there, Dean, about who you want to give the award to. We'll be off to the Stade Louis II in the next few minutes with Adam Bridge and Scott Minto for AS Monaco against Manchester City. So the goal kick about to be whacked downfield by Nick Pope. All eyes on the referee. The whistle goes, and Newcastle United have got their first Champions League win of the season after the disappointing night at St James's against Barcelona. Anthony Gordon, who scored their consolation against Barca, gets 2 on the night for Newcastle, both from the penalty spot. Voltemada and Barnes also on the mark for the Tsunami, and Eddie Howe will be delighted with such a professional performance from Newcastle United. 3 points on the board, clean sheet, 4 goals scored. Thank you very much.
Very good performance. You know, they withstood a little bit of pressure, but then they controlled the game. They quickly worked out where the weaknesses was of the Belgian side, Union SG, and then they made the most of those. Winning the penalties, of course, was key just before half-time. I think that second goal was probably then enough to be comfortable in the second half. A bit of naivety from Union SG, but Eddie Howe, you're right, I'd be so pleased. No injuries, good performance, 4 goals and a clean sheet, and 3 points.
Well, the Magpies had only won 1 of their previous 11 away European fixtures. They've made a mockery of that statistic tonight. A very, very comfortable 4-0 win against the Champions League new boys of Union Saint-Gilloise. It is time that I asked Dean Ashton to pick his man of the match with our friends at Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
The Here For It hero on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever it is, we're here for it.
As the Newcastle players go across to applaud their fans who travelled to that corner of the stadium in Brussels, I turn to Dean Ashton and ask for your nomination for man of the match tonight, Dean.
I did really want to give it to Tonali because I thought he put in an incredible effort and was such a big part of the build-up, but when it really mattered in that first half, when things were tight, Anthony Elanga I thought was brilliant. Just kept going down there, just kept feeding it out to him. He kept going at the fullback, won the penalty. It was a great cross for the first goal that led to it, and he was the difference, I thought, especially in that first half.
There you go. There's your man of the match. Here For It hero, nominated by Dean Ashton with our friends at Enterprise Rent-A-Car.